All right. So my name is Tonyia Cleaver. I am a financial advisor, and also you see CPAS, which it stands for Certified Exit Planning Advisor as well. So what I enjoy doing is working with individuals and with business owners to talk about the impact of the decisions that you make. And my passion, even though I'm a CPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisor, my passion really is to share this message earlier. It impacts your business and the decisions that you make as you grow along the way. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. But before doing all that, Kristen and I have known each other for a bit. Um, Prior to becoming going into the financial industry, I spent 25 years in the corporate world, and my passion for what I'm doing drew me to leave something that I was extremely comfortable with doing to share this. It it's so important, and it impacts not just you as an individual, but also the fact that it impacts your family, your business, the legacy that you want to leave in your future. So uh, being able to talk about this and to share it is so important to me. Like I said, I after 25 years, I walked away from a career that I was doing very well in to do this. And I left in 2018. And 2019, I went to a large firm, financial firm, um, to work with them. And then last year, I decided that I wanted to have my focus and who I'm passionate about working with be my to be my focus for my business. And so I walked away, joined the Wealth Boutique, brought it down here to Dallas. We are a women owned and operated financial service firm. The passion about helping women, about people who aren't comfortable talking about money, and introducing it in a way that's a little bit different than the traditional script that you're going to hear. So that's really why I'm doing what I do, and the impact for business owners today when it comes to paying yourself like a CEO and what that really means. And I work with a lot of business owners that think that their business is their plan, but should it be your only plan? And I'm going to talk to you about how it would benefit you to have a dual path. Um, at the end of it all, if you're able to sell your business for the amount that you've been working for and planning on it, fantastic. And then you also have the retirement plan that goes alongside of it, and both will actually help you grow your business in a different way. So that's what we're really going to talk about today. But before I do, I wanted to share on the question that you asked, what's my non-negotiable? Well, I have two. And the first one is I adopted a beagle about 2 years ago. He's an older dog, but I realized that he's never been loved. He was very reserved and took a little time to come out of his shell. But every morning, the happiest dog that I've ever encountered. I mean, it just, so rubbing him, playing with them, and just spending time, because that's just pure love and attention and time. And he enjoys it a lot. I enjoy it because he's just if dogs could, he's got that little doggy smile with those big floppy ears, and it's just fun to really spend that time before getting anything else done. And then the other one that I'm getting back to is writing my gratitude list every morning. What am I grateful for? So it keeps me motivated and moving forward every day, especially on those days when it's like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to get up, and I don't want to do something. And we have to move forward. I believe that my path and my plan in life has a purpose, and I've got to get up and do that every day. Whatever it is, and every step that you take just moves you closer to what that is. And so I'm very thankful for that. So now we'll get into pay yourself like a CEO, and is your business your only plan? So on April 1st, I talked about the difference of your mindset as being a business owner versus a CEO. And when you wear each hat. And so, as a business owner, most of the times we focus on running our business. And if you are, when money comes in, you're typically reactive. Once that money comes in, then you decide what you want to do with the money, and how you're going to allocate it. And then typically, you either pay yourself last or you don't pay yourself at all. And you deserve income. I'm going to I'm going to minimize the view so I can see the screen. If for whatever reasons I'm talking about something and you need to chime in, I can't see you. So if you'll just jump in so that I can answer your question. And then as a CEO, the CEO makes intentional financial decisions. They're going to structure your money all ahead of time so that when that money comes in, it's in action. You are moving the needle towards where it needs to go, and it flows the way it needs to. But a CEO also builds both income and your future. Your business is building that income, so yes, you're going to focus on that. But also, how do you build towards your future? And that's what we're going to look at today. The other question I asked last time is, are you building a business or are you building something that supports your life? And I hope the answer is yes to both. And that's where we're trying to head to if we can. The reason why it is so important to create those dual paths is you can't predict the value of your business. If you've spent 10, 15, 20 years and it's time for you to exit, are you going to have the value that you anticipated in your business when you sell it? There are unfortunately situations where you may end up having to exit earlier than you planned. So having that dual path will also help you with that as well. And then industries change very quickly. We talked about companies that were no longer around. We think about Pier 1, Bed Bath and Beyond, Joanne Fabrics, just a few of the ones that are no longer here. And these are companies that have dissolved, very recently. But technology, AI, are you in a business that could be affected by that? So we want to make sure that you are protecting not just your business today, but also your future, should technology take your business into a different direction. So today we'll talk about the CEO strategy. As mentioned earlier, CEOs plan for the future. So the first thing that you'd have to do is actually figure out what your goals are, and then consider solutions to achieve those goals. And you'll factor information to take into account that may impact those decisions, and then create a plan that fits your goals. So they actually work and plan for a lot of different steps, but they're taking a holistic view of that. And some of the goals that I hear from a lot of my business owners, as your business begins to grow, seeking greater tax incentives becomes something that comes top of mind. If you're growing your business and you now have employees, but you want to keep them satisfied and happy, providing benefits to keep them there. As your business grows, you become more competitive. So are you competitive with the other companies that are in your category? How do you do that? And then you want to establish a stronger pool of employee candidates so that you always have somebody at the ready that you can hire should maybe one of your key employees decides to either retire or quit or move on. Do you have that strong pool that you're not having to recreate the wheel as far as knowing who they are and getting out there and maybe recruiting them and potentially even recruiting them along the way? And it also gives you an opportunity to plan for your own retirement. So why would you want to consider a business retirement plan to go along with your business? One, it offers the tax advantages not just for your business and yourself, but also for your employees, depending on the type of plan that you have. It will attract and retain top talent. If you are a business and you're being out there and being competitive and somebody else offers a plan that you don't, people who are coming to work with you may value having a place to have a retirement plan. So it helps you to attract and retain top key talent that's out there. It'll boost employee satisfaction, the people that are already working for you. How do you keep them in a position of being satisfied, of being there and excited getting up and coming in? It's a savings plan again for your own retirement. And it also builds in long term financial planning and stability for your company and for yourself. Now, offering that and saying that, there are things that you want to take into consideration when thinking about that. Eligibility. I'll go through some top plans that most business owners will look at. Um, there are employer responsibilities, so you may take on responsibilities that you need to be aware of. Are you willing to do that? There could be third-party administration fees and participants that you will have to bring in to help do that. Funding responsibilities when it comes to contributions, what you're responsible for doing and how you're supposed to do that. You'll have to be aware and maintain the contribution limits. They can be a penalty if you collect more than you should for that employee. Minimum employee requirements. How many employees do you have to have in order to maintain a plan? Withdrawal and payment restrictions, so options that are part of the plan that you'll need to be aware of. There's loan restrictions. Some plans will offer loans, some do not. Vesting period. And vesting just means the amount of time that that employee has to work or be there in order to collect the portion that the employer provides. And yes, there are annual costs that are attributed to having a financial plan in place. These are the different types of plans that are available. And again, we'll just talk about the three most popular plans that get employers started. But there are numerous out there. I will provide a complete list with all the needs and requirements, and you can get that on my website, and I'll have a page for you in a minute for that. And so again, you can go to my website, Tonyia-Cleaver.com. I forgot the .com /resources and to download the 2026 Retirement Solution Comparison Sheet. And I will, one caveat, unfortunately, it is not up yet. I looked this morning and I'll make sure that that gets up right after this meeting today. So the first of three of the most common retirement plans that we're going to talk about today, and you've probably heard these terms, but the Simplified Employee Pension Plan, which is also known as the SEP. It is extremely easy to set up and maintain. Eligibility requirements as far as employees is one or more, and you are one. So if you didn't have employees at the moment, you can certainly start a SEP plan for yourself. There's a particular form that you use to set it up. Typically, if you work with an advisor, we set that up for you. There's no annual filing, so there's some plans that require you to do some filings every year. The contributions are made by the employer. So you are the employee and employer of the plan if you are doing one for yourself. There are some compensation limits on what you can contribute in salary. So just be aware of that. Those will change every year. So you'll want to make sure that you have the updated information. And then the employer decides whether they make a contribution or not. So if this is a good year and you have that conversation with your CPA of how much you can contribute for the year, you can make that amount towards your retirement plan. If it's not a good year and it's not a time for you to make that contribution, you do not have to make it every year. So you get to make that decision and the flexibility of this plan is one of the reasons why a lot of people will utilize it. If you have employees, be mindful that your contributions and theirs have to match. And um, then in, not if they have not worked for you, 3 out of the last 5, you don't have to make a contribution. But the minimum threshold, if they have worked for you for at least 3 out of the last 5 years and have made at least $800, very low threshold, then you will have to make a contribution on their behalf. Um, there's no loan eligibility. You cannot loan against this. Some employees find value in being able to borrow some of their money and pay it back. Withdrawals are possible with uh, and there's taxable consequences for early withdrawal. So you'll have to be able to let them know if you withdraw this money, you'll be paying tax. What happens is it goes to your bottom line, their income. So they pay that tax based on the income bracket. And if they are under 59 and a half, there's an additional 10% penalty for early withdrawal. But they are immediately vested, so they have access to that money as early as soon as it's in. So you'll have to be mindful of that. The second most common one is a simple plan. And it's really basically a salary reduction plan. It does have administrative paperwork that you're responsible to make sure it gets filed. Um, and it's eligible to an employer with 100 or less employees. So if you yourself it's fine. If you have employees, then anything under 100, you are still eligible to use this plan. There are some paperwork that you'll have to use to set it up. Um, there's no annual filing required on this one. And in this case, you will be utilizing a institution, somebody who, an advisor for one, to the custodian of your money. So me, for example, I am the advisor, but AssetMark is the company that I use a lot of times. That is the custodian of the investments or the funds that are being held. Contributions are made by the employee through their payroll deduction. So you'll want to make sure that you've got a great team in place that is good and responsible for making sure that those contributions are made out of their payroll before out of their paycheck. So these contributions come out of their paycheck, and then you also, as the employer, will also have contributions. Bear with me as I drink some water here. There are employee maximums as far as how much they can contribute. So again, having a good team in place to be able to monitor the contributions that are being made. There's also what's called at age 50, there's catch up that's allowed to happen. So that person over 50 is allowed to make a larger contribution. And last year, the IRS actually introduced between age 60 and 63, individuals in that group now have what's called super catch up. So you'll have to be able to monitor that as well. And then the employer match will also have to be made along the way. And there's salary maximums in this particular plan as well. And then it's up to the employee how much they want to contribute. So it's if they say, hey, I want to take 5%, 10% out of each paycheck, then they make that decision. And then as the employer, you have a contribution amount that you are required to make. And that just depends on if you want to make a matching contribution, meaning up to usually you'll see employees or larger companies will match up to 1.5% or 2% to your 5 or 6% contribution. So you can make an amount in that direction, or contribute to every employee, whether they participate or not, at 2%. So you have a little bit of flexibility in there, but the employee also has flexibility in there as well. And again, um, these have to, there's eligibility requirements. So again, how long has the employee been there? How much money have they made over that period of time? So you'll want to make sure that you're monitoring that. If somebody is not eligible and then they cross into that eligibility, you want to make sure that you are allowing them to participate when they are eligible to do so. This particular plan also does not allow for loans. Withdrawals, again, are possible and again are subject to federal income tax. So tax, it will be taxed, or and that is the employee being taxed. And depending on age, again, under 59 and a half, an additional 10%. And the most common one is the 401k. And a lot of times people will think, oh, I'm not large enough. But if you are a solo owner, it's called a solo 401k. They've changed people like to call it solo K. So it's the same concept. You have a little bit higher level of salary deferral by employees, and employers have to have at least one or more employees. So again, the one is yourself if you're self-employed, and don't have a team. So the nice thing.
Tony? Oh,
Uh-huh.
oh, Sarah. Thank you. I wanted to actually ask you a question and reiterate this to everyone on the call. If you are just a solopreneur, you're saying we could utilize each one of these to plan for our own retirement, not just offer these to our employees. Correct?
Correct. That is correct. And I was just about to say on this particular one, on the solo 401k, if you are in one of the um, one of the videos that I did, one of the reels I did was talking about talking to your CPA. And the reason why is that CPA will sit down with you. And especially if they have all your information right now, it's the easiest time for them to play around with the numbers to let you know if I made a contribution, what would how does it impact this year's taxes? And what you'll find surprising is it could eliminate the taxes that you pay. It could change you from paying taxes to getting a refund. So there's some protection levels that are in there, and your CPA, because that's not an area that I am involved in, but that CPA can sit down and plug these numbers in for you. Even if you're not ready today to do this, at least find that information out. It will help and prepare you, for being prepared starting this year to pay, taxes when you're filing next year. I will say one thing: the SEP plan, it's very easy to set up. You actually, it's not too late to pay last year's taxes. Through a set plan, as long as you have not filed your taxes, you can actually establish that and pay those taxes before you file. So that's one of the benefits of SEP and why I end up opening a lot of SEP plans, because once they find out, hey, you know what? I'm just going to use this as an example. If I had paid myself that $5,000, I wouldn't have to write that check to the IRS. I can pay myself and let this grow, and invest it and protect my future. So that's why it's real important, because there is an opportunity to help your business lower those taxes, and help yourself for your future by paying yourself today for for the opportunity down the road. So it doesn't necessarily eliminate taxes. Let's say that for sure. It does benefit you currently, but it will defer those taxes till down the road when you start using it in retirement. When that money comes out, typically the philosophy about retirement plans are the fact that typically when you're in retirement, you're expected to be in a lower tax bracket. And in today's environment, that's not always true. But if you're in a lower tax bracket, or you don't have to pay until you start withdrawing that money. You Then you'll pay down the road. But what has happened is that $5,000 had how many years of growth and interest, and we'll talk about how that looks like in a few minutes. But the opportunity for that $5,000, for example, to be 10, 15, 20, you know, thousand by the time you retire, depending on the years that that money has worked and grown for you. So that's why there's such a wonderful uh, duality on using these retirement plans, because it helps your business today, lowering how much you're paying in taxes today, and allowing that pool of money to grow over time and potentially help you with your retirement. And the other part of that, and I'm just going to reiterate it again, is we don't know what the value of your business is going to be down the road. And, it, if it doubles and triples, I would love that for you. But if it doesn't, do you have enough money to live on in retirement when you are no longer working in your business? So, on the traditional or solo case. So a lot of times, like I said, now the more people are using solo K or solo 401k to acknowledge that as an individual business owner, you have the right to own and have a plan without having employees. Now, the part about the 401k that's nice is you get to double dip in some ways on this particular one. And what does that mean? You get to make a contribution as the employee, and you have to make that contribution before the end of the year. So for this year, by December 31st, that amount has to be funded for your employee contribution. And even if that's yourself, you get to make that contribution. And then by the time you file your taxes, you will have to have made the employer contribution. So you actually get to make two contributions to this particular plan. But this one also comes with a lot of requirements. You will need professional help in doing this particular plan. There are annual non-discrimination testing, and what that really is talking about is every eligible employee allowed to make contributions. They just have to monitor this. Just to kind of give you an idea, retirement plans are monitored. The Department of Labor is involved in retirement plans. They are the ones that these are reported to, and ultimately, the Department of Labor is actually under the IRS. So again, the tax rules and all the guidelines are coming from the IRS, but the Department of Labor, if there's ever a question or a concern, it gets reported to them. So the employee, if they feel like they are not allowed to participate in something that they can clearly show that they are allowed to participate in, it would get reported, and they would call the Department of Labor. So these are just how the programs work. But again, you will end up using a third-party administrator, an advisor, and a custodian of the funds. So you'll have hands in place that help you along the way. And the third party administrator, TPA, are the ones that kind of keep you on track with your paperwork. They're going to ask for certain reports and certain things that are required to have and maintain this particular type of plan. But it is a salary reduction. So when you take money out, just like you would if you were in the corporate world, out of your paycheck, that $5,000 reduces, and I'm using again an example of 5,000, but that $5,000, if you were an employee that made 40,000 a year, that $5,000 gets taken from your bottom line. So you've made the contribution to your retirement, and now on paper, you have made $35,000. So that's how it's considered a salary reduction because that money has been deferred to the future. There's no taxes taken out at that time. And again, it's deferred to the future. And when you move that money out of the plan, then that's when it's taxed. And at a certain age, currently at 73, it's called required minimum distribution. So you have up until then to let this money continue to grow. You don't have to pull it out until you need it, but the IRS says that at some point in time they do want to start receiving their money, or at least the taxes from portion of it. So current age is 73, and by 2030 it'll be 75. So they are increasing that because more and more people don't necessarily need the money from their retirement plan. So it allows that money to continue to grow without penalty. So there are contribution limits. There's still limits on there. Anybody over age 50 is allowed to make a larger contribution, and the super group now 60 to 63 can make even larger contributions. So there are limits, and again, these change. I wouldn't say every year, but lately they have. But every couple of years, just make sure that you're keeping track of that so that you are monitoring what the employee is eligible to contribute, and then the contribution limits for you as the employer, what that looks like because there's salary caps on it as well. And then the employee gets to make those decisions on how much they want to take out. You, as the employer, make the decision on the terms of that plan, how much you will contribute towards an employee who's participating. It's usually a good incentive to, participate yourself. One, it sets money aside for the business, but it also, if somebody made a 3% contribution and you as the employer is saying for 3%, I will match 1.5%. That employee is growing 4.5%. So part of that is technically free money to them, that 1.5%. So that's still growth and opportunity for them. That's where the not client, but employee satisfaction comes in. It helps retain some of the employees that have built a good plan. And for industries that it's not common to have a 401k plan or a retirement plan, it could attract some really good potential employees for you and really up level your business. There are contributions again that the employer has to make, and as far as matching what those terms look like. And then the qualifications, they must be at least 21 or older, who have worked at least 1,000 hours in the previous year. So again, the internal support that you have, whether that's your HR or yourself, you'll need to monitor those hours so that when your employee is eligible, you want to make sure that is addressed, when possible. Again, withdrawals are possible. This is one of the plans where they can withdraw money. And in some situations, they'll be able to do a loan. There's qualifications on that loan, typically medical, new home, first home purchase. Sometimes education has fallen in there. So there are times, and what they do is they pay back a percentage or a portion of it every paycheck. So again, you'll have to monitor. Sally borrowed, $5,000. She's going to pay back, $75 a paycheck, and you'll need to make sure you're paying that. Taking that out of her paycheck. And once she has reached that amount, then you are eligible to give her her full salary back. And again, this is also one of the most common, this is one of the most common plans that we do. And again, as an individual business owner, you get to make double contributions, one as the employee and one as the employer. Again, so I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes, take a screenshot. I will have the full um, grid up, and it was an eye chart. So I only really wanted to focus on the key ones that most business owners work with. But again, depending on the size of your business, just depending on the goals that you have and need, there might be a different plan that works. But these are the most common, so these are the ones I wanted to cover. Doesn't mean that this is the appropriate. These are the appropriate ones for you. It could be something different, but the complete spreadsheet will be available on my site. Okay, and I'm going to move forward now. So, as a CEO and business owner, you'll want to review your options, determine what plan works best for you and your business. So, really delve into where do I want to take my business? What do I need to do to participate in this? What's right for me? And I keep reiterating it, but please talk to your CPA. If your CPA is not comfortable with business plans for or retirement plans for business owners, I would highly recommend incorporating a CPA that's familiar. They're going to be able to help you determine what makes the most sense for you. Let them give you scenarios. If you did a SEP, this is the amount you could contribute. If you did a 401k, this is the amount. They will be a little bit different. And which one is going to benefit you? Which one's going to benefit you most consistently? If it's somebody that you've worked with for a while, they can actually go back and look at your history and let you know, hey, you've averaged this amount every year. So this is the plan that would benefit you the most, or you would get the most benefit from. And then if you have inconsistent income or anything like that, then a different option may make the most sense for you until you get there. It just depends on the type of business you have. Some businesses are seasonal, so that may impact what makes the most sense for you. Um, but also be mindful of what you, as the business owner, is responsible for. It is your fiduciary responsibility. So once you take on a plan, you want to make sure that it's appropriate for you, and you'll be able to maintain that plan for your business and for yourself. And then where's your business today and where do you see it going in the future? So are you can start on a particular plan and then grow with it, or is there a plan that incorporates enough of what you're trying to do that you can see that it will grow along with you? And then the requirements. Is it going to be outside help or third party resources? And then do you have the staff or capacity to ensure that you remain compliant with these plans? It sounded like maybe there was a question coming.
Tonya, we have a question. Yes.
Sure.
Iram, do you want to go off mute?
Yes. So the question is, if we decided to act on the advice that you're providing, even if it's like a punch list of let's get into a level of awareness of what are the options, is this something that as business owners we should open up like an entire quarter to, or does it take several days? Like, how quickly can we put this plan into action after the assessment is completed?
Certainly. So the SEP and the simple are usually the quickest, easiest ones to do. You'll have to create a 401k plan. So that's the one that takes a little bit longer to do. So just days or weeks, not quarter or months. So that part's nice. It's just, how structured your business is, how many employees this may impact, things like that. But I would say on a larger plan, it could potentially take up to a month to get you up and running. And it depends again on where you're at. If it's a complete setup, that may take a hair longer than somebody who may already have a plan, but hasn't really utilized it. Maybe you already have opened one but never funded it. So it could be as simple as that. So it just depends on where you're at. But I would say that if you allow yourself a few weeks to up to a month, it should take. That should be about the most should take on any of these three plans. Now, some of the other plans may look a little different.
Okay. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Tanya. Also, so kind of taking a little bit of a step back, what are, I guess, can you break it down for us? Is the first step ask your CPA? Is that what you're
My recommendation,
asking
because
first?
we're
Ask your and then see you, or how? what?
yeah, I mean, you could do either way, but the one thing that I will say is I can't tell you the contribution amount because that's not my lane. But once, and that's why I always recommend talking to your CPA. But give me a call too, and let's talk about what where you're at, you know, why you think that this would be appropriate. Because one of the things I'm always going to ask is consistency as far as the contributions. If you're new and up and starting up and you don't know what, you know, what next month is going to look like or the next 6 months, then a personal plan, and that's always an option. And we talked about that on the first, which is either making it a personal IRA contribution or even a Roth contribution. Personally, that's not through your business. That's something that you are still allowed to do as long as you have earned income, which is the trackable amount that your CPA will let you know. So at minimum, $7,000 contribution to either plan, depending on your age, or 8,000. So it just depends on your age, and it depends on being able to show that you have earned income. So you can still make contributions to a retirement plan, whether it's personal or if you're ready to step into doing a business one, then we can look at that as well. But I would highly recommend, I think mainly because it's an eye opener for you to see what impact it would have on you to keep your money, to let it work for you and let it grow versus sending it out to Uncle Sam, for taxes. Now, it may not eliminate taxes, but if it reduces your taxes, wouldn't you love to hold on to more of it, of your money?
So, Tanya, I almost think it would be, to me, have a conversation with Tanya first, so you kind of go through everything she just said to understand it better, so that you can then go to your CPA and say, hey, I've just recently learned about these options. Do you know what I mean? To me, sometimes we don't know. And then when we have this kind of education, so maybe if you wanted some more clarification about all the options, and then you could still, talk to Tanya and be like, here's my business, here's what I'm at, here's what I'm doing. Can you like dial in a little more from high level? What would be most beneficial from where I'm at to get more educated on that? At least I'm talking from my particular standpoint, because and then you'd have that kind of in your pocket. Like, hey, I spoke to a financial advisor. I'm looking at some tax strategy. I just learned these options. Now that I have a better understanding of them, can you help me evaluate what would work better for me? At least I would want the deeper dive on the options, because it can be a lot of information, and you know what I mean? We don't know. So when we're more educated, we can then ask better questions. Because our CPAs are, they're only where they're at with where they're at. So lots of times I've learned, when you talk to people in the financial industry, you learn things. I mean, I've done this with my financial advisor, and I'm like, hey, can we talk to me about this? I just learned this. So that's just my 2 cents because I've done it. But you know what I mean? So just reaching out to Tanya and saying, hey, can we talk a little bit about this? Can you explain the options you just spoke about? Like, what is really the difference, and how was it? Because it comes down to how it applies to you. So
Yeah,
just wanted to give you my 2 cents on that.
no, I
So
appreciate that.
yes, and we are at 11 o'clock, ladies. So we want to be mindful of that, because we all know have calls to jump. Yes. So thank you so much, Sarah. You want to close us out?
Thank you. Well, yes, thank you so much, Tanya, for having us just evaluate where we are, where we want to be. So everyone, I know this was a lot of information. I don't want you to get overwhelmed, but to really
Sarah, you're cutting out.
see.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
before everybody jumps off, you are welcome to reach out to me.
As I gave you real quick, expertise. Okay.
Sarah, we're losing you. Okay, Tanya, go.
All right. I was going to say, I will send out my information. You are welcome to schedule a complimentary conversation, 30 minutes. Just let me know you're part of Mompreneur, and I will be happy to schedule that time and have a little more conversation, a little more in depth to see how I might be able to help you.
Okay, awesome. All right, thanks, lady. Katie, what is Sarah saying?
Yes, yes. I'll just give you guys a little teaser for May. So we are going to talk about the systems that you're using to stay organized. And do those systems, are you utilizing the bells and whistles that you need to in order to automate things like your follow-up? So you're not leaving money on the table. So you're reaching out to all the people that you've come into contact with in networking meetings, whatnot. And then beyond that, is your business in a spot where you can utilize AI voice, AI SMS and email, AI chatbot in order to step back yourself, or in order to engage with your leads after hours? We'll talk about all that next month. So get ready.
Yes, let's not be overwhelmed by AI. There's a lot of it, but there's one for you. All right, ladies, we will see you next month. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanya. Have an amazing rest of your day. If you need anything, reach out to all of us. All right. Bye, ladies.